Hi, I'm Jason with Global Finishing Solutions, and today we're going to talk to you about side load systems. So at Global Finishing Solutions, we offer a side load system that works with almost every body shop. This is a type of system that was originally designed for larger factory type operations that did a lot of used car refurbishment. So your places that would take in used cars, they fix them up a little bit, repaint parts that are damaged, and then send them down the road. And the reason they need a system like this is the vehicle loads onto this track and dolly system, and then the vehicle can be moved station to station. So in those type of operations, they'll have people that just do body work, people that just do primer, they have prep people, then they have painters, and they work basically in a timed type systematic approach where the vehicle will move to its next location every half hour, every 45 minutes. So the benefit of this system is they don't have to start cars and move them all around. When they're done working in one location, they just slide the vehicle to its next. What we've seen is in the last couple of years, a lot of traditional type body shops have really been able to benefit from these types of systems. So when we look at a side load system, essentially we have a track and we have dollies. The dollies can be positioned in different ways on the track to accommodate pretty much any wheelbase of any vehicle. There's a few really weird random ones that won't quite fit, like an extended cab, extended box, one of these huge super long trucks. The benefit though of our side load systems is you don't lose the standard functionality that you get with a normal paint booth. So in that type of scenario, that's still a vehicle that we can drive into the booth and drive back out. So you're not hurt in any way. But the benefit we get at these collision shops by being able to utilize this is a lot of times we get far more production through the booth. And that's the biggest key to this system. So where that productivity comes into play is think of your traditional repair as you move into the paint booth. So we do the body work, we do the primer, we get that thing sanded, pretty much ready for the booth. Typically it'll go into a staging area next to the booth. When the vehicle we're currently painting is done, we drive that one out. Now we pull the next car in that's ready to be painted. Once we pull that into the booth, we still have to mask everything off. Some of those complicated tape jobs can take a half hour or longer. So during that whole half hour when we're taping and masking everything, you're not painting. So what a side load system does is it minimizes that time. We're able to fully tape up and mask a vehicle just like the one you see behind me here. If this is the next vehicle we were going to paint, we can fully mask it, fully bag it, because now we don't need to open the doors to get into the vehicle. So as soon as that last one's done being painted, we can push or slide that one out, and now this one we can slide right into position, push that vehicle into the booth, close the sidewall door, and we can start spraying immediately. There's not much your shop has to change process-wise, but there is a few things to keep in mind. Since we're trying to shave off minutes, every minute counts. So when you bring a system like this in, a lot of times painters are mixing the paint once the vehicle is in the booth. So really the only thing we have to change is we want to mix our color before we're ever in the paint booth. So we can mix our base coat. You're not going to mix your clear, obviously, but we want to mix our color ahead of time and have our sealer ready to go. So if it's something we have to seal, as soon as we close that door, we could just quickly wipe stuff off and we're ready to spray our sealer. And then when our sealer's drying, we can go ahead and get the next steps done. But basically, by cutting out that masking time, it's going to save anywhere from 10 minutes to 45 minutes in a booth cycle. Because again, we're eliminating that downtime in the booth. So what does that add up to in your body shop? So currently, if you're doing 4 or 5 cars a day that you're getting painted through that booth, think of that 10 minutes to 45. So even if we average it at, say, 15, we'll play it on the safe side. We'll drop that down. So 4 or 5 of those cycles quickly adds up to an hour's worth of time a day that you have a vehicle in the booth that you're masking and not painting. So in that hour, it's possible to paint 1 more car that day. So let's say through a whole week that doesn't work out perfect to plan, we have to move some things around, we didn't get an extra car that day. But if one day that week we got 1 more car painted, what does that mean to your shop? So right now the average standard numbers in the industry are an average work order of a little over $3,000, and most shops are targeting around 40% gross profit per job. So that means one vehicle through your paint booth is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 on average that you're going to get in gross profit. So if we get one more car a week, you're talking about $50,000 to $60,000 in added gross profit a year to your body shop. Now let's say we really get things systemized, we're pre-mixing our paint, we're being efficient, and we do get one more car a day. So if we're working 5 days a week, now we're talking over $250,000 a year in gross profit to your body shop. How much would that impact your shop? So that's what we're trying to help people accomplish when we implement these side load systems. There is a lot of usability to these, a lot of customization, so we can make it fit in almost any format. The one that we're standing in today connects a prep area to a booth. So in this exact circumstance, the vehicle would get ready for primer. It would come in here, it would get primed. We also have a Revo unit here that cures primer unbelievably fast. So the primer's actually cured in the stall, then it's slid over, it's sanded, it's bagged, and ready to go to the booth. Now, if your system isn't that complex, or maybe you don't want to add any other equipment, you just want to add a side load system, we'll make that fit to your shop. So it's pretty common now, and we see it a lot, is the side load system is just added onto the side of the booth. And that's something we recommend typically if your booth is your bottleneck. Maybe you have 3 or 4 cars that are waiting to get painted, so you're trying to find spots to put those, or they're sitting in a production stall, which is the worst case scenario, because if they're holding up that stall, you can't bring the next vehicle into that stall and start working on it. So what a side load system does that just sticks out of the booth itself, it allows you to bring those cars that are ready for paint, bring them onto that side load system, get them loaded, get them masked, and get them ready for paint. So as soon as one's done, again, that one slides out, the next one slides in, and we're spraying. So we're going to speed up the production of that booth without eating up much floor space at all. In fact, you're going to get the most efficient use of your floor space when you can incorporate a side load system. So the side load system has a pretty simple yet efficient design to it to make it work in almost any shop. So when we look at the track itself, we have 2 flat rails, and then we have our center rail. So that's going to match up with our dolly, and by having the 2 flat rails, it allows us to flip these from one side to the other so we can accommodate almost any wheelbase. So if we look at the bottom of our dollies, we have a flat wheel, and again our grooved wheel, which is going to fit on our standing part in the center of the track. So all we do is we position that down onto that track system, and as you can see, it rolls incredibly easy. So we have a few different types of this track system available. The first and preferred one is one that's inset into the concrete. So if I peel back this, you can see our concrete underneath our floor protection. So the way this one is installed is after the concrete is poured, they'll cut relief sections in, mount this track system inside the concrete, and then they'll re-pour this outer section to match up flush to the side load system. This is the preferred method because there's no trip hazard, it's nice and low. The other style that we have mounts on top of the concrete if you don't want to cut into it, and it'll stick up maybe a ½ inch or so. So not really a trip hazard, but it is one more thing to think about and see in your shop. Both systems are pretty much maintenance free. With this, there's quite a bit of depth on the track, as you can see. About once a year, all you have to do is take a shop vac, and you can vacuum out anything that may be down in that track system. But the dollies themselves ride up very high just on the top surface of this, and the footprint is incredibly skinny. So any dirt, dust, debris, anything on the track isn't going to get in the way or stop a vehicle from moving. So it's a very efficient, low maintenance type system. When looking at our dollies, we have a few different kinds. This is a standard type dolly, and then we have a heavy duty dolly, which accommodates wider tires. If you're not sure what your shop would need, I always recommend the heavy duty dollies, because if you ever get one of those special circumstance type vehicles with wider tires, or maybe you get a big truck or something like that in, you don't have to change anything in your shop. It's still going to be plenty wide enough to accommodate any tire that's going to be coming through. And again, in any of those special circumstances, maybe it's a custom vehicle, something way out of the ordinary that doesn't fit on the system, the beauty of our side load systems is we don't take away the standard functionality of your booth. So you're still able to pull and drive that vehicle around the front, pull it into the booth like you normally would. Next, I'm going to show you one more way that our side load system is used. So it's becoming a little bit more common now in body shops to do a quick lane repair. Whether it's the shop is working with a Geico ARX program or some other expedited service, or maybe they're doing a lot of used cars or rental car work where it's typically small repairs and they want to get them in and out as fast as possible. So in that type of scenario, we'll usually run our side load system through a double prep. So that way one lane of this double prep can be used for your quick lane repair. What quick lane repair is we're going to do the entire repair from body filler through paint all in one stall. Or as a hybrid system, we can do the body filler and primer in the prep and then slide it into the booth for the final paint job. So first let's look at how we're set up. So the biggest difference is we have our Revo system incorporated into this as well. We need the speed of this for curing our product in order to make that speed lane successful. So what we do in preparation for the vehicle is if we had a repair that we had to do on the door and say we had to blend into the fender, is we're going to have everything taken apart and everything sanded down with either 800 or 1000 grit paper, depending on whatever paint system that you're using. So basically it's ready for paint, even though the body filler hasn't been applied yet to the repair area, or just the primer if it's maybe a deep scratch or something in the paint that we're fixing. Once we get the vehicle fully masked and ready for paint, then what we do is we paper around the repair area. Once we paper that off, if we were doing body filler, we can now apply our filler, or if we were doing primer, we can now spray our coats of primer. Once those are sprayed, essentially they'll just turn on the Revo system and let this run across. This system takes about 3 minutes to fully go across on primer this size, and that primer is then fully cured. So then at that point they can hit park on their Revo machine, it'll go back into the parking garage, and then we can either block out and sand our body filler and then prime, or if this was our primer, we're now ready to peel off our masking. And at this point, the vehicle's already fully masked and ready for paint. So all we would have to do at this point is give it a quick wipe down or blow it off. And now if we're moving on to the painting process in the prep with the Revo unit, is we're essentially ready for base coat or for sealer. And again, we can use the Revo through that whole process. Or if you're a shop that doesn't have Revo, at this point we're ready to push the vehicle out either into a staging area where we're going to sand that primer down or directly into the booth for paint. Now when it comes to the actual time that we save on this system, we did a few demonstrations working with some paint companies to do some time trials. In a speed lane type repair where we're maybe 2 or 3 panels, a simple repair like that, we can put on our body filler, the Revo will cure that in just about a minute. Then that's fully cured, ready to sand, and then we apply our primer. And it only takes a few minutes to cure the primer as well. Then we can sand that. We typically recommend using a vacuum sander to keep the dust down in this area. Then you're ready to wipe that off and move on to base and clear. So we can do that entire repair with body filler, primer, base coat, and clear coat, and have it fully cured and ready for reassembly in just under an hour. Where traditionally, after you spray your primer in a normal shop, a conventional type setup, it's going to have to sit a few hours at least, typically overnight before it gets painted. So we're able to save massive amounts of time in that type of scenario. But again, it is going to be limited to those quick lane type repair jobs. So if you ever have questions on that, the biggest thing to do is contact us directly, and we can see if your shop is suitable for one of those quick lane type repair systems. Otherwise, we can get it set up for the conventional method. So next I'll show you how to load the car into the booth with a side load system. So as you can see behind me, that big white wall, that's actually the paint booth coming in from the prep area. So whenever we put in a side load system, we outfit your booth with a roll-up door by removing most of the outside wall. There's 2 different types of doors available. Currently we can do a cloth type roll-up door or a Cornell type door, the big metal door, similar to like a garage door that opens up. Both insulate very well so you don't lose any part of that from your booth, and they're very fast and very efficient. So all we do, the car is ready for paint. We'll hit the button to open our side load door. And then we slide our vehicle into the booth. Once we make sure that's fully inside, All we have to do is close the booth, and we're ready for paint. So our side load systems are very customizable. We can make anything fit your shop the way that you may need it. If you have any questions on this system, the quick lane repair system, any of the stuff you saw today, feel free to reach out to GFS directly and we can answer any questions that you have.